Stand by for IMAX Theater Optimization Crosscheck. Configure customized movie screen.
Field of view maximized.
Power up revolutionary projection system.
Crystal clear images enhanced.
Calibrate powerful digital speakers.
Laser aligned sounds perfected.
Prepare audience for maximum impact.
Audience engaged for full immersion.
The world's most immersive movie experience begins now.
Good day, this is Mon La Familia and this is Asean for Ethical Community. And we are here in Singapore Youth Institute to bring latest updates for our different ASEAN nations.
Also here at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Crisis and Calios bring to you updates with the ASEAN community. November 18, 2014, 3:30 p.m. time here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, as the ASEAN nations agreed to strengthen political stability to every member nations. As to strengthen political stability, ethical actions are essential, and also the heart to serve is a merit. Here is a presentation of an exclusive interview with Mom Pangilinan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the ASEAN group. We are here to conduct an interview regarding ethics. We are with Ms. Maria Teresa de la Cruz Pangilinan. She is the Secretary of the Sangguniang Panlunsod. The first question is, Ma'am, in your own opinion, in your own personal standpoint, what is ethics?
Ethics is, I would say, it is a set of rules that guides one's conduct in the discharge of one's duties and functions. It finds its basis not only on what we know as law, but also from the law of God.
The second question is that, Ma'am, do you agree that ethics is a problem or even a big dilemma in the government? And if it is a yes, then why?
I would say definitely what we see on the news every day would pinpoint to that direction. Because currently the issue pertaining to our vice president and some of our senators tend to pinpoint that ethics still poses a big dilemma so far as our government is concerned.
And the third question is, to what extent can you express the importance of ethics in every organization?
Very important. Not only important, it is very essential, very vital to how an organization can discharge its functions fully. As I said before, it is a set of rules which guides conduct. So without that set of rules, there would be nothing to guide how they discharge their functions. Kanya-kanyang banat, ganun. So it's
There's no
siya,
direction.
chaotic. Really chaotic.
Ma'am, in your own opinion, what is the basis of unethical decisions?
As I said earlier, ethics finds its basis, I think, not only in laws made by man, but those, our natural law, the laws of God. So that is the basis of ethical, that should be the basis of ethical decisions.
It's
That
that.
is basically what is right and what is wrong.
Ma'am, an ethical decision must be based on democratic or moral point of view. And why?
I think both. There should always be a balance in how we decide in what action we should take. There should always be a balance because whatever we do, however we discharge our functions, affects a lot of people. What may be right for me may not be right for them. So that is where democracy comes in, because I have to consult them to find out if what I think is right is also right for them.
And in your own opinion, one's ethics should be more based on idealism or realism?
Again, there should be a balance. Our idealism should always be tempered with realism.
Yes. For you, ethics should be more subjective or objective?
This one definitely subjective.
Should be subjective.
The term itself should come from within, from the person within, from one's character, his moral standpoint. Hindi siya galing sa hindi siya galing sa libro. It should come from within. Kasi kahit na nandun yan sa libro, hindi rin siya it will not take effect. It will not bear fruit. It will not come into fruition pag hindi ma-exercise ng tao. It should come from within.
Yes. Does the institution you are working in has its own ethical codes? If yes, how do you think it helps you and your co-worker in doing your roles in the institution?
We have, for all public officers and employees, we have what is called the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for public officers and employees. That's the Republic Act 76713, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I guess I would say it helps a lot. It helps us a lot because here in the office, we try as much as possible to abide by those by that code of conduct. So it guides how we relate to each other, how we relate to our clients, how we relate to our superiors.
And do you think, ma'am, the existing ethical codes are effective enough? If yes, why? If no, how and what are your recommendations to fill the gaps?
As I said earlier, the code itself cannot come into fruition. It cannot attain what is supposed to be attained if it is not practiced. So, if it is practiced, I think it's effective enough in every organization. How can it be practiced? Maybe I would suggest that there should be a constant reminder by way of workshops, orientations, a venue where the commitment of the workforce in one organization can be ascertained with respect to yung rules na nandun sa code of conduct. Parang nilili-echo lang from time to time sa kanila.
It's just like a reminder. Ma'am, as a professional exercising your expertise in the institution you are working to, How do you apply ethics in your workplace?
As a first, but I said earlier that democracy should ethics should be both democratic and moral. So as much as possible, here in our workplace, we adopt yung system ng consultation. So from time to time, I consult with the unit heads, with the division heads, kahit hindi lang sa kanila. We're a small office, so pwede rin, I can just simply call everyone to the office and then present to them a certain matter which should be decided upon. Yun, so through that process, that simple process, na-apply namin yung ethics. Other than that, I think more importantly is how as their supervisor, na-preserve ko yung kanilang, what do you call this, yung kanilang welfare, na-promote ko yung kanilang interests. Yun, basically yun.
And then the last question is that, do you think what it makes to be a successful public servant?
Having a heart. Having a heart for the students, having a heart for the people that you serve, finding it in your heart to know what they need, and finding it in your heart to work towards what they need.
And ma'am, do you have any messages to us as a public servants of the future?
Yes. I'm very, very, very optimistic with the future generation of public servants like you. I can see na nag-change na. The times have changed. Kasi noon, nung kami yung bata, sunod lang sa magulang. Hindi kung gano'n. Hindi ko naman sinasabing huwag sumunod sa magulang.
Yes.
Pero we were a quiet generation. Nowadays, I can see the zeal sa inyo to participate in governance. So, don't lose your idealism, but balance it with realism. Okay? So, it's a constant adjustment with the times. Basta don't lose that idealism.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, for sharing your time with us. Thank you. That's all, guys. Thank you.
Cheating was the most common type of an unethical manner. This is the grievance of a private attorney within a prestigious university in the Philippines. However, the degree of efficacy is measured on its duration. Let us watch this exclusive video.
Expertise in the institution you are working in. How do you apply ethics in your workplace?
Oh, that's very because as a trial lawyer, I am an officer of the court. Once inside the court, I'm an officer of the court. Even outside of the court, if I'm making my pleadings, I am an officer of the court. That's why, how do I apply it? With the highest standards, I know that should be applied to myself. For example, I value my client's rights. If he's an accused, I pursue his rights according to the letter of the law. But I don't, in my zealousness to protect his rights, I don't commit a wrong like coaching him or telling him to lie. No, or what I do, for example, is I let him write his version of the events. For example, he's accused of rape or murder. Sulat mo nga, anong version mo dyan? No? Even if there's a confession, pag sinabi niya, oh sir, na-rape ko yan. I am bound by my ethics to defend him.
Sir, why?
Officer, public officer. The way simple lang. You don't cheat. You follow the standards and protocols of the organization you are connected with. You do not you stick to your sense of value, your sense of what is right and what is wrong. So it's more of a moral issue for me to be a successful public officer. It is not enough that you are efficient because you know the law, for example, the letter of the law. It is not enough that you are effective, meaning you can influence the others in accordance with your concept of what is right and what is wrong. What is best for me is that aside from being efficient and effective in what you are doing, you must be morally upright. Like
Administration students like us as a future public servants.
oh yes, don't cheat.
Sabi ko, do not cheat, guys.
Oh, do not cheat. If you cheat, because it's very likely you have to do it once in a while, cheating na walang far-reaching effect. I mean, it should not taint your own conscience. Yung, for example, I cheat, you know, smoking, I cheat, pero to me, that's cheating. Pero sa akin, hindi far-reaching ang effect nun. It's unlike nagkukorap ka. Government, there are so many corrupt public officials. Far-reaching ang effect nun.
Yeah.
Because you are breeding a culture of corruption either by directly participating in the corruption system kasi or indirectly because you're not doing anything. Diba? Sabi nga ni Ninoy. Ano sabi ni Ninoy? Pagdating sa ganyan? Through another philosopher, pero si Ninoy mismo nagsabi, if you do not do anything when you know that somebody is cheating, you do not do anything, but you are indirectly participant in the cheating. And you compound that to a problem of the magnitude of the Binay case, for example. Tingnan mo naman yung billions of pesos na nawawala. Because you kept your silence when you're supposed to speak out. So, as future public servants, simple lang. Do not cheat.
Hashtag cheat. Do not cheat, guys.
Yes, do not cheat.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for Ethics is a big dilemma within the Philippine government. That was the statement of an academic professional. The ASEAN team conducted the interview. For more detail, here is an exclusive interview. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the ASEAN group. We are here to conduct an interview regarding ethics with Ma'am Juliet M. Lagasca. She's actually the Dean of the College of Education. The first question is, Ma'am, in your own opinion or personal standpoint, what is ethics?
Well, ethics has to do with what is morally good and what is morally bad.
Do you agree that ethics is a problem or even a big dilemma in the government, and why?
Super duper. Yes, it's a big problem in the government. As we can see, there are a lot of political leaders who are involved with activities, with the things that would describe whether they are ethically good or not. The actions, the decisions,
the activities where they are in would show that as if morality is not existing among the political leaders that we have.
And last question is, do you think what it makes to be a successful public servant?
To become a successful public servant, one should be morally upright. And one should be very careful when they make decisions, that these decisions should always be for
Do you have any message to the public administration students as a future public servants?
you are still in that stage where you are very idealistic. You are still in this stage where you are studying the theories, the principles about governance. We just hope, or I just hope, that in the future, when you become public servants and you become leaders in the country, you will stick to the ethical principles, and you should not be persuaded by the things that you see around you, and you should not be influenced by these political leaders who are not sticking to what we call morally upright, moral behavior. Okay, that's it.
As of the expert in the Philippines, ethical action must be more subjected to moral acts. However, morality should be also in objective manner. And here is an exclusive interview.
From your personal standpoint, what is ethics?
Yes, Senator.
O yung, ano,
Sige, okay na.
Sir,
yung hindi personal statement ito, but this is an authoritative issue.
Yes, sir.
Ethics, ang ethics is a science and art of correct living. Okay? Correct living. What is correct living? And it is a science of the morality of people, such that you'll be able to know whether a person is right or is wrong on the basis of a standard, ethics. And such that you'll be able to situate a person whether that person is doing right living or wrong living.
Sir,
primarily yun ang ethics.
Sir,
In general terms. So, but there is another definition. Ethics is the science which deals with the morality of human acts. By morality is meant the rightness or wrongness in human conduct, such that readily you'll be able to know whether the conduct of a person is right or wrong, or there is morality in the act itself. Okay? So that's ethics, morality of human acts. Now let's qualify. Yung sinasabing human acts, by human acts is meant the acts done by men in conformity with three elements that are necessary. What are the elements that are necessary? First, when a person performs a human act, the three elements are as follows. There is knowledge, there is freedom, there is voluntariness. Okay. Let us distinguish them from one another. One, when one performs a human act, he must have a knowledge of it. Primarily because man is a rational being. As a rational being, he must know what he is doing. So, rationality means there is reason for doing, but before there is reason for doing, one must have knowledge of what he is doing. Knowledge. Second, there's freedom. Freedom to do it or not to do it. I know it, but I have the freedom to do it or not to do it. Example, I know that killing a person is wrong. Okay? It's wrong. But I have the freedom to do it or not to do it. I can kill a person. But I may not also kill a person because I have that choice. And the third element is voluntariness. When you do it, it's up to you. You are given the freedom to voluntarily kill a person or not to voluntarily kill a person. So those are the three constituent elements.
Sir, do you agree that ethics is a problem or even a big dilemma in the government? And
Actually, it's a problem of ethics in government. There is such thing as ethics in public service. Definitely, we are unable to get good governance because of ethics in public service. The moral ascendancy of people occupying positions in government is oftentimes a question.
Sir, in your own opinion, what is the basis of unethical decisions?
An ethical decision should be bounded on one, reason. Second, on morality. There should be a reason for doing. And that reason should justify what one does. Second is there should be a moral standard why you do it. Moral standard is meant if it says it's wrong, do not do it. If it says by moral standard it is right, do it. Next.
Sir, an ethical decision must be based on democratic or moral point of view.
Exactly, that's what I meant. Moral principle, moral standard.
In your own opinion, one's ethics should be more based on idealism or realism, and why?
It can be both, but I presume it's more on, it can be an idealism in the sense that this is the ideal setup, this is the ideal thing to do. Example, what is ideal, let's say for example, for a person occupying a position of public service? Do good in public service and avoid evil. Such that when you serve the public, you serve them with utmost responsibility, diba? With utmost morality. You do good to them.
Sir, for you, ethics should be more subjective or objective?
Can be both. There is such thing as objective morality and subjective morality. But what is basically correct is objective morality. Why? Why objective morality? Because objective morality's basis is on standard, while subjective morality is based on the person's perception of what is right and what is wrong. For example, based from my knowledge, lying may be correct because that's my subjective standpoint of lying. I lie because I do not want my father to be killed because somebody asked for my father and he is holding a gun. He might, in the process, if I will tell where my father is. He might, with the gun, shoot my father. Subjective morality. So lying in that particular case may be wrong, but it can be right. So there is subjectivity in the process. But when you say objective morality is based on a standard, that lying, irrespective of how you justify it and what it represents, is always wrong. Why? Because it is a distortion of truth. Lying is always a distortion of truth.
Sir,
So that's objective morality.
the institution you are working in has its own ethical
Oo, meron
rules.
tayo.
If yes, how do you think it helps you and your co-worker in doing your roles in this institution?
Sa in the institution where we work, there is always an ethical standard. For example, as public servants, we uphold to a standard, and that standard is the law itself, Republic Act number 6713, otherwise known as the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. That's the standard.
Sir, last question. Do you think what it makes to be a successful public servant?
Be ethical, be good,
Ethical, be
be
good.
of service to the public.
Sir, do you have any message to us?
And that's all the latest update for now here in the ASEAN Watch. Again, this is Mon Lagunilla
And also here at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Rifles and Calios bring update from our own community, our ASEAN community.
And don't go. Up next is the ASEAN Sovereign Journey toward Ethical and Harmonic Community.
Good afternoon, classmates. Good afternoon, sir. Once again, we are the Asean group. We are with Dr. Carlos T. Tabunda. He's actually a graduate of BA Philosophy at University of the Philippines and a Master of Public Administration and also a Doctor of Public Administration at the same institution. Sir, the first question is that do you think ethics within our government officials and politicians is a big dilemma? And if it is yes, then why?
I think that's one of the biggest national issues today. We have all of these corruption charges against our Vice President, General Bina, who is actually running for presidency in 2016. So people are questioning his integrity as a leader of the nation because of all these corruption charges. So that's really a big deal. So because when we're trying to instill morality. We're trying to look up at our leaders, not just political leaders, but also moral leaders. So if you have questions on their integrity, if you have corruption charges against them, then it's really a big issue. And it's really a question of how fit are they to govern our nation. So that's how ethics is.
Sir, what does it take to be proactive youth and success of future public servants someday for the success of not only the Philippines but also for the integrated Asian community?
When you say proactivity, there's a certain requirement before you become proactive. It has to be preceded by an awareness of what you are trying to become proactive with. You're trying to be a proactive leader that considers the issues related to Asian integration. Then you have to be very aware about the implications of Asian integration. You have to be very aware, first and foremost, what is Asian integration all about, and what are its implications to our country, to our youth, to our students, to our economy, to our people in general. So before you can become an effective leader in your respective field within the context of Asian integration, you have to be aware of the implications of what Asian integration is all about.
And the last question is that, on what should ethics be more based? Should be more on democratic or moral point?
For me, ethics is really about morality. But of course, when you say it has to be somewhat democratic, you're now talking of utilitarianism, for the greatest number of people for the longest period of time. But at the end of the day, the question to be asked is it more? How does it become moral? If it benefits most people for the longest period of time, does it make it moral? Because there have to be some deeper introspection, some deeper considerations of really the moral roots of an issue. For example, if you profess to be a Christian, for example, are your actions consistent with Christian principles? It may be utilitarian in the sense that people really benefit from it. But are you selling your soul at the same time? So that's really a dilemma. So if you're talking of democracy, so if you're talking of utilitarianism, you have to couple also with the basic foundations of morality, so which may not really be consistent with utilitarian ideas, because in the end, something that is acceptable to many may not necessarily be moral, may not necessarily be ethical. You have to really consider those two conflicting ideas, two conflicting principles.
Sir, do you have any message to us, public administration students, as future public servants in the future?
Don't forget your morals. Don't forget your ethics.
Yes.
You can only be an effective public administrator if you stick to the basics. And the basics is, the ethical basics. Plus, of course, the basic consideration of whom should you be serving? Will you be serving your personal interest, your family, or you will be serving the whole society, the whole nation in general?
Thank you, sir.
Can you imagine this? In one part of the world, 10 countries come together to define themselves as one. Within Asia, in a 10-country grouping called ASEAN, a unified force with a population of more than 600 million people that would rank as the 8th largest economy in the world, with an estimated value of $2.356 trillion, potentially larger than the GDP of India, Russia, or Brazil. 600 million people moving as one economy. We are expanding the borders of home, redefining what we mean by community. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, sees 3 strong pillars that weave together integrating communities: the political and security community, the economic community, and the socio-cultural community, redefining a new phase of relationships towards economic integration, the ASEAN way.
The ASEAN integrations will eventually create an expanded market among the members by eliminating trade barriers. It will create a freer flow of goods, services, capital, and investment. If we see it in a bigger picture, the ASEAN integrations will encourage more business collaborations and complementations in its trading and investment with the other regions.
For the first time in a long while, we have a fighting chance to succeed to our growth. Our economy is among the strongest in the world. Our workforce is young, dynamic, and global. Also, our government is making great progress in enabling businesses to thrive in a transparent and fair market.
The AEC, of course, is going to benefit all of ASEAN. And the benefit to the Philippines will depend on how prepared we are and how prepared the companies are for the changes coming ahead.
The ASEAN economic integration. It is about a single market with a production base characterized by the free flow of goods, services, investments, capitals, and skills. It is a strengthening base for policies on consumer protection, intellectual property rights, competition, and infrastructure development. It is the blue ocean space that empowers the SMEs to narrow the economic gaps between member countries and bringing value to the supply for the global marketplace. So in the case of small and medium enterprises businessmen like Juan, what does this mean?
I'm a Filipino businessman. How can I compete?
The Filipino has always been borderless, breaking boundaries through their love of travel and service that strengthens and adds fun to our tourism-related businesses. The competitive Filipino focuses on technical know-how in our manufacturing and production industries. The sustainable Filipino harnesses the richness of the land in agribusinesses. The creative Filipino's innovation and ingenuity fuels the creative industries. All these enhanced by a unique people renowned for their skill of care, relational friendliness, and service equal to none.
There are 3 things that we can do. We can upgrade our industry to be more competitive. We can improve our educational system so that we can produce more skilled talents. Or we can also try to convince the government to review the excessive regulations so that we can be more efficient in business.
How does the ASEAN economic community benefit my business?
Well, the main benefit is that we have a market now that's open to us with 650 million in population. It's a huge market, and therefore we can now prepare and bring our goods in to any of the 10 ASEAN countries.
If you've been dreaming big, the time to act is now. From the Philippines, food and snack companies have moved manufacturing to emerging markets like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. These Filipino companies are steadily increasing in their presence as key market players across the region. Small to medium enterprises have seen their market expand as tariffs have been reduced to allow furniture companies, jewelry makers, and agribusinesses to export to neighboring member countries, reshifting their targets away from the traditional markets such as Europe and America. Homegrown ASEAN brands are already thriving. A Malaysian airline has swiftly risen to be among the world's best low-cost carriers and has never been more proud to call itself truly ASEAN. While a quick-service restaurant company has challenged itself to do business beyond borders and today prides itself in having more than 2,000 stores in 6 ASEAN countries. Now, more than ever, doing business will be easier in and outside of the Philippines with partner countries.
Let me share with you our ABC for the AEC. First, audit your environment. Understand the threats and opportunities locally and in neighboring countries. Second, build your brand. Align your brand with the market needs. Remember that you have to be as good or even better than the competition. Third, re-examine all the communication channels you're using and make sure to address a wider audience.
The business potentials ring loud and clear. An abundance of opportunity is here now within ASEAN.
The greatest, I guess, inspiration I can offer to the Filipino business leaders and workers is not to be afraid, but to get information, to find out, to go headlong into this opportunity. Be confident. The Philippines has a huge advantage in this integration. English speaking. We're crossing 10 borders here. The languages of many of the countries that we're talking about do not cross borders.
We should level up and collaborate and be part of the more dynamic segment of the global supply chain.
In 2015, gives us the opportunity to participate in a huge market with 650 million population. So this should be our anchor going forward, and that we are ready now and prepare ourselves to service such a huge market beyond our shores.
It is our time. The Philippines has so many things going in its favor right now, and we only need to dream bigger and try harder. That's how we will succeed in AEC 2015.
Moving as one, we can compete in key sectors with other regional blocs and bigger economies. The ASEAN economic integration mandates cooperation, not competition. It is about collaborations that foster regional pride. Ultimately, it is not just about countries, but the combined market strength of an entire region rising as one. Get ready for the ASEAN Economic Community.
Throughout these years, we have resolved, working hard together for a true community. The beauty of diversity, bridging all the differences, a sense of unity. Let us move ahead, hand in hand as one. Let our virtues stand and face the challenges of time. Let us move ahead, integrate as one to an ASEAN community, prosperity, and harmony.
The future's ours. We have the strength. We shall find the peace within ourselves and with the world. And as we strive in our resolve, sharing this one vision of a true community. Let us move ahead, hand in hand.